This video is called The Boy with the Blisters on His Feet, which is kind of like a cheeky parody title to a Smiths song, if you catch the reference. Anyways, I know I talk about this a lot lately because of videos. I'm just going to briefly explain it because it's tangentially related. This story begins about 22 months ago when I was 25 years old and I had COVID-19. This would have been like very late July into early August of 2022. And I remember I was living with my ex at the time, and I remember waking up and just sensing like there was something not good in the background, like something unfavorable is coming my way. And I didn't really hear much from my ex, and then they texted me like right before noon that day and said, can you come into the bedroom, please? And I remember I was like, I knew something was up, so I guess I had to do like a quick barometer test to see what I was about to walk into. So I remember texting them back and asking if they needed me to get them anything before I came in. And they said, no, that'll be okay. And for some reason, like the that'll be okay, just, I knew instantly what was about to happen. And it was quite possibly the most brutal way I've ever been broken up with. For those of you that have also been like fired from your job, sometimes you might have a boss that's like so professional about terminating you that it just makes you feel like a piece of shit. And it was a similar type of feeling, because I think what bothered me at the time was like I felt very discarded. But I remember like hiding behind like a stone face at the time, because obviously that meant I couldn't be living there much longer and I needed to figure something out or else I was going to be homeless. Blah, blah, blah. Like a day and a half passes, someone in my personal life pulls some strings, I get into this place. It was a lot of challenges though. One of the big challenges was my car basically did not work. I could drive it like 3 blocks up and down the road. And basically this was a issue that developed the spring of that year. I worked in another somewhat major city, probably about 40 minutes east of where I currently live now, selling truck parts. It was my final trucking job in general. I remember I left that job June 2nd of 2022. That was my final shift in the trucking industry. And it felt good. Yeah. But I was going home one day, and I'm probably not even at the midpoint yet. I'm probably only a quarter of the way home. And my temperature gauge light starts coming on and going crazy, and then it goes off. But it only goes off on declines. So like I noticed there's like a few tricks, but I couldn't master it in time. So I basically had to go all the way to some little country diner's parking lot and sit there and let my car cool off. and then I was able to drive it for about 25 more minutes successfully. Pulled off to the side of the road again before it overheated. Got all the way to my ex's house. Phoned my dad to bring me some coolant. Because, I don't know, I guess I just didn't trust, like, the gas station coolant, right? Ooh, excuse me. But I didn't have the money to really get that fixed at the time. So what pretty much ended up happening was, it didn't really matter at the time when I was with my ex because we just used their car. But when I was on my own, on top of the fact that I had expired tags, I couldn't really go that far. Like, I couldn't even commute to work reliably. I was lucky enough that the one job I had to drive to, which I could have probably biked to at least, which I did like once or twice towards the end of the season, it wasn't too far away. So by the time I made it to the parking lot, that's when like my thermostat light would come on. And I had just enough time to get back home, So it didn't really matter, and I figured the drive was so short, I wasn't really going to worry about a cop pulling me over. But I guess at first, I really refused to believe that my car was in such bad condition, because I remember when, like, one of my first weeks living here, I drove up into Michigan, and I actually had to, like, pull over onto the side of the highway because I over freaking heated. And then I remember spilling coolant and that just causing a huge white cloud. So, I was just so mad. I was like, great, someone's going to think, like, my car's exploding, police are going to get involved, it's just going to be a fucking stupid day, a stupid night to end a stupid day. And, that didn't happen, fortunately. But I pretty much did not use my car since then. And I wanted to expand more on this in the video I made like a month ago, or maybe 2 months ago now, where I kind of like first explained like how life was the past few years. But it was a freaky time. I was blessed that my father, my stepmother, and I'm sure my mother would have helped, but we weren't on speaking terms at the time. But they started me off with groceries, so when I first got in here, I wasn't hungry, and I already had a shit ton of debt at the time. So, that lasted me probably about a month and a half. And then after that, it was still summerish. So, like, as the groceries were tapering off, I mean, one of the first things I took when I was moving all my stuff out of my ex's house to this place was, like, essentially every field guide and ID book that I had on hand. And I'm blessed that I took the time to get familiarized with edible plants and all sorts of plants throughout my life, because it really did help me prepare, because I knew there was going to be a point, because I kind of, in a way, I live in a food desert, because I'd have to like literally walk like an hour and a half to get to a grocery store, and the bus lines here aren't really reliable. So I started basically going in alleyways or going in the woods near the beach by my apartment, or really overgrown areas that I know weren't getting sprayed by pesticides, and basically forage for food for a little bit. Not all the time, but there were some occasions where my walks were basically more like I'm literally scanning for groceries. that was interesting. That was kind of like a fun life challenge. And, I had to walk everywhere, like I said. And there was this one time I needed to get a direct deposit form from my bank. And I had to basically walk 50 minutes halfway across town to get the direct deposit slip. It was really rough for a while. I mean, I literally had blisters all up and down my feet. I remember filming TikToks of like the bottom of my feet, and there were just like tons of shredded open blisters on the bottom of my feet, like the dried, decaying flesh or whatever. And at the time, I wore them as a badge of honor, I'm stubborn as hell. That's one thing about me, and I'll be the first to say it. And when I need to prove my point, I will prove my point. And I just knew that my ex probably did not expect me to make it far. They probably expected me to faceplant. I'll just level with you guys. There was actually a point in time during the time that we were actively like splitting apart. And I think it was probably like the day before or my first day going in there, like here, living alone. And I remember they texted me and basically said, if you think you're going to be a danger to yourself, please text me. And I said, what do you mean? And they said, if you feel like you're having certain thoughts, that's like the only way I can think to say it. Please let me know so I can take you to inpatient. And at the time I said like, okay. And I remember in that moment, I thought that was like so out of freaking left field, I mean. And I think I was just missing my ex really bad at a certain point, because I remembered like journaling down like, they still have to care about me, right? Like they said, if I ever feel like I'm gonna unalive myself, to let them know. And I kind of look back at it now, and I could see it either way. But for some reason, it doesn't feel like a sincere statement, right? It kind of felt like it was coming from like a place of ego. And like basically you're saying like I would discontinue my mortality on the earth because I will never have access to you or your life or anything again, right? Because, you cut it off. You said no more, right? And I remember that clicked in my head at a certain time. And I realized, like, they must, like, think really low of me. And maybe they didn't. To be all fair, maybe they didn't. But I think I needed to think that at the time to motivate myself to, like, get out of the hole that I was in. And like I said, it's really hard at first to, like, redirect your life. It feels like probably what I'd imagine trying to redirect the course of like a cruise liner ship with your bare hands, just like trying to push the damn thing, right? But over time it gets more routine and it gets easier and things hit a baseline and level out. I'm fortunate for the generosity and the charity of the close people in my life. They got me out of some holes. for sure. But this is definitely one of those things that I just had to experience for a while. And I'm glad that it happened because I feel like it made me a more humble person, for one. I feel like it made me a less judgmental person. Now, sure, I still judge people, like, who I think I would like to talk to and who I don't think I would like to talk to. But it's never coming from a place where I think I'm better than someone, I guess I should say. And it really does make me thankful for everything I do have, and just having been able to maintain my life, my lifestyle, elevate it a little bit with the addition of like the new phone or getting internet, getting my hobbies back. You know, it's definitely baby steps, but at a certain point you turn back and you got 1,000 baby steps, and that can take you pretty far, you know. So living incredibly poor was very interesting, and I really think everybody should go through an experience like that in their life. I think the world would be a much kinder and more compassionate place. That's about all I gotta say. Peace out.